Good? Okay, so here we go, everybody. This is the first meeting of the Design Build Services City Hall Review Group. And I'm going to introduce everybody in the group. My name is Wayne Caragino. I am not a member of the group. I'm with the city. I'm the assistant city manager, and I'm just here to guide everybody along and encourage a good exchange of ideas. So that's the purpose of this, and get input, and we can pass the input on to the design engineering firm, which is Jacobs Engineering. So we have Mike Miller, Commissioner Mike Miller, ex-Commissioner Mike Miller here. We have John Luce. We have Rick Anderson. We have ex-Mayor Tim Tumulty. And we have Scott Maxim. And Pam Kempton is to my right here, who is going to be taking minutes, and Pam's in our finance department. And so I'll start this off with just throwing it out to the members here, and you guys can talk about whatever you want, discuss whatever you want. I know you can't see it, but the design drawings at this point, the floor plans are up on a screen in front of us. They're also available through our website for anybody watching this. And we can, actually, if you guys want to start, we can start by playing that video. Want to do that?
Okay, sure.
Yeah, all right. Let's hit that, one of those lights, Scott, see it. That would probably be enough. Should I get this going? So we're all watching the video. If anybody at home wants to watch along, I can freeze this at any point too. So just some things. This tubular structure would encapsulate the elevator shaft. There's been discussion on what materials that would be made of. I think they have had an idea of a metal, but that's been kind of poo-pooed on our part because of the salt exposure. And so they're talking about some sort of a masonry product with a metal-like finish on it. So you still get the kind of the look. And I'll just go over some things that were discussed on our end, and then you guys can, take it from there. You can see the stage area here. These big diagonals, they will be a metal product right there.
I think, Wayne, on the elevator shaft, the external, it was said that originally it was proposed stainless steel, but I guess cost-wise, we've maybe rethought that. Is that what you had said?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Something like 304 stainless steel or something that's impervious to the salt environment, that's a common usage. It's used in condo elevators as well. So, but I'm sure it's expensive, more expensive than other stuff.
Right, and so the general, so W&J, when they look at this, they'll come up with probably maybe some options for us. I'm not sure, but it's something that we had brought to their attention, and we didn't bring to their attention any material in particular. We just brought it to their attention because even stainless steel will corrode down here.
Yeah.
Unless you get a real high quality. What do you think, Mike? What do you think about the stainless steel?
I don't have an opinion.
Okay.
Some of the grades will not, in the marine grade, 304 stainless steel, I think that, it may be cost prohibitive, so you may have a very good point, but I think that's pretty tough for this environment.
Yeah.
I'm not sure aesthetically it would look that good, though.
Well, that could be.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the way the
Yeah, yeah.
rendering was metal, but maybe.
Yeah, I
maybe-
mean,
Yeah, can we go back on that?
Yeah.
This one?
No, it's not.
No, this
Yeah.
one. Yeah, there's a good shot of it. Yeah, so it's reflective and almost like a polished material in this, you know.
Now, is that enclosed also? As the rendering show it enclosed, it looks like.
It does, yeah.
So what is you're saying that maybe it's not even exposed to the environment?
Well, I think.
It could be internal?
This isn't what we're going to choose, so that if we could pause for a second. This is just like a draft, their first version of what they thought we might like. So we can do whatever we want.
Exactly, it's completely conceptual,
Yeah,
yeah.
we can change anything we want, so we're just
You need
looking
to
at
go
what
through
they've
the-
done.
I agree with Tim, we need to go through the video. At this point, I think we need to talk about some more high-level
Yeah.
things in terms of what's included, how's it arranged, what does it mean?
The size
The
of it.
details of
The size of
design.
it, whether it takes up half of that space, a quarter of the space, a third of the space. How tall is it? Is it 2 stories? Is it 3 stories? You know, that kind of, just that basic stuff before we start really, like you said, Mike, before we get into the specific aesthetics of it.
Okay.
yeah, I'm definitely a form before function type of person. Or the other way around, function before form. It has to work first,
Yeah.
and then you know, then you do with the aesthetics later. But you know, the bones and the structure and it just has to work.
Okay, I'll keep this. So next, we're gonna come up into the commission room. This video too, you get after you come out of the commission room, you get lost as far as this Revit presentation goes, but we can get a better actually, if you want, we can get, for the next meeting, we can get Jacobs here. If you guys think you're at that point, you want to have them here, it's totally up to you. But I can arrange that if you want that. Okay, so here's the commission room. Just some things that we discussed were making this bulletproof in some way, so that not necessarily you could deflect completely, but you could duck behind this. That was discussed, just something that we discussed. This would be the IT room for running all the video and audio stuff. That's a view east. And then you go back into a kind of a private area where there's a conference room, which could be used by staff or commission members. And okay, so now we're out into the staff area, the actual departments, and this is where you'd have to refer to that floor plan, the second floor plan. This is very confusing.
Page 3.
Yeah, you can't keep up with this. We can, like I said, if I get them here, they'll have the actual program and they can do an actual live walkthrough with you guys. These are just some things I'm throwing out there that you can have at your disposal for the next meeting or whenever you decide. these are different departments. So we've had needs assessments already by the departments that included, you know, future expansion of the departments and current needs. So I do know here now we're going into the, this is the city manager wing. And then I think, yeah, we go out on the street here. This is a view from Brevard. So you'd be looking east here. This is Brevard right here. The light at the corner of Brevard and Minuteman is right at this corner. So the light would be here, you make a right. Now you're heading up towards Orlando. So this is the north elevation here. And then we're going under the structure.
Is this the wash-through that you were speaking of?
Mm-hmm. Yep. So there's also a community room and access to the stage and restrooms. Restrooms would be, well, hold on. All right, let's give that another shot. Yeah, so you can see the wash through here. And then this is the community room right here. And these are the type of doors they have across the street there at Tropics. And I'm not sure what that's called, but they're actual garage doors, but they have glass in them. So these can be opened, you'll see here in a second.
That's the restroom in there.
Restrooms to the right here, yeah.
So is it a one-for-one replacement on the parking spaces? Is that what been designed in?
One for one, I'm not sure.
Well, is it, in other words, does this plan include exactly the number of parking spaces that are?
So far, yeah.
That are, yeah, okay.
Mhm. But this is not the only parking that will be available for the not only people visiting, but the workers.
Mhm.
It seemed to me on the parking issue, it looked like a net increase.
I think it's a decrease.
You think it's a
Yeah.
decrease?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it would have to be, because you've taken out the senior center space.
Yeah, you've got two, and right, currently, there's two inner lanes and two outer lanes, and the end toward the old, where the city hall used to be, so
Mhm.
there's quite a few. This only has 15.
Yeah, so another thing I have them doing,
I don't
and
think
I was
that's correct.
hoping to,
I'll bet you there's over 20, well over 20 in
But-
city hall right now.
What spaces there?
Yeah.
Somewhere around 25.
But the plan shows 35 spaces in one area, 6 spaces in another,
Mhm.
and then we're talking about under building spaces. There's 50 spaces here, and I don't think the existing lot had 50 spaces.
15.
No.
But
No,
this-
In the
but this-
plot,
what- this
in
right
the
here.
plot plan, it shows 35 spaces in one area, 6 spaces in another.
Oh, those are spaces
And
there.
under building spaces of, I don't know what
Yeah.
that is.
I
If
assume-
you add those 3 areas,
Oh,
that's,
over where the police station was.
Yes, yeah.
that is now newly created parking. I think if you add A plus B plus C, I think it's greater than what we currently have.
Mhm.
Now, I think the underbuilding storage is, parking is less, but you have to add the newly created other 2 spots.
And what is that little, I don't want to get too far off on a tangent, but I'm wondering what that little structure is in the parking lot there. What that's supposed to be.
That's like for food vendors to come in with their trucks and whatnot.
Okay.
Over there, yeah. So that, the idea on that was to have pavers that could support that,
Mhm.
vehicles, so you're not just driving on dirt or.
Sure.
right, so we had a permeable pavers.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so we're inside that that building, the community center area, here's those doors I was talking about, they're actually, garage doors that you can open.
Do they roll up?
Yeah, yep, it'll be roll-up doors, yeah. At this point.
So what is the planned use of the community center?
So Freedom 7 would be able to use it. They're currently over at the country club. And any civic organization, or we can rent it out for events at night or, afternoons when it's not being used. Similar to what we do at the country club. But it's just kind of a different vibe here than the country club. Much different vibe. And then this would go out to the City Hall Park in the front here. This door. So if you opened up all these doors, it'll be a very open space.
That'll be a very breezy space.
Yeah.
Yeah, the wind will be blowing through there continuously.
Yeah, so you can
So
partially
you can
open the
control- Yeah,
doors.
you can control that.
Come on. And this would be a kitchen area. It'll be similar to what we have at the pavilion. It's not a full kitchen. It's a term for that.
So what sort of?
It's a warming kitchen. So you'll have microwaves and refrigeration, but not actual stoves. Because you have to
What is
understand,
that and what kind of capacity is that?
the kitchen, or
No,
the room
itself, yeah.
The whole thing is like 2,200, the whole thing, counting the kitchen and the office. There's a kitchen, you're looking at the
2,200
kitchen.
square feet.
There's a
Okay.
Yeah,
kitchen
that's about
there,
right.
and to the left off the screen, where my left hand is, there's an
Mhm.
office.
Mhm.
That's like 450 or 400, and then the community room, the gathering space is like 1,800, roughly, so it's like 2,200.
Yeah, you're,
It's close.
yeah, close, yep. So this room will be finished and designed to take a hit on a flood. So no drywall, probably, just exposed concrete with some sort of finish on the floors, and so that's yet to be determined, obviously, but that would be the intent here. There's also a storage area down there, I guess, to keep all these chairs and tables and stuff based on the event here, and a storm.
I don't know how everybody feels about that, but without getting into, the size and the design and the this and that, I kind of like that there's a community space there.
Oh,
I
yeah.
think that's smart to do that.
Yep.
I've heard a lot of people say they don't think it's smart, but it's low-cost square footage because it's at the grade, it's sacrificial, it's kind of like satisfies our handshake with Freedom 7, but it's available, like Wayne said, to rent. It could actually become a low-dollar revenue stream, low dollar, but we could rent it and other groups could use it. I kind of like it.
Now that I see it, I agree with you.
So another thing too, I have to see what the latest, because this is in flux big time now. These drawings and like Tim, like you were saying, this is all very conceptual at this point. So I know that if you look at the floor plan that you guys have in front of you, and I'll go to that, but this has been eliminated on this side, or maybe this is accurate. There's been modifications on this side here to eliminate some of this part of the structure, to shrink it down, to get it more into line with our budget. So
You're talking about the outside balcony space?
yeah, this was cut down. I don't think that reflects that change, but. So at this point in time, this is the structure we were looking at. And then you got a night shot. This Revit is really, really cool. The kid that does this is very good at it too. Okay, so let's go to the drawings, and then you guys tell me what you want to see on the drawings, and I'll get them.
Well, can I suggest that tagging on to what Tim said a minute ago, I think it was a pretty smart statement there. Can we state, like, what is the scope of our review? You know, we're not gonna get in, I asked about stainless steel because I heard you mention that before, but let's back up. What, is the building geometry within our purview? I mean, is the actual site location within our purview? What is in kind of what's established and what is variable? I mean, what can we look at?
Okay, so this is pretty much established. This floor plan, as far as the working areas for the departments, this not necessarily the commission room itself, and this drop-through area, which you saw in the video. This is the back of the structure where this is all open area. That's in flux now too.
Wait a minute. I thought our role ought to be to provide citizen input for the community. We represent the community in terms of what the value of this is to the citizens of Oakview. That to me would be our role.
Well, that's what Tim started about. I was thinking that we need to all four of us get on the same page as to what is in our scope of review.
Right.
Are we just tweaking square foot areas, like move this wall over, this partition over? Or are we looking at the outside geometry and say we'd like to move it, shrink it, make it rectangular, not square?
I think that's kind of up to us, isn't
Yeah.
Well, I was just asking Wayne for what.
Well, I want to go a little further, higher. It seems like a lot of people in that space, a lot of floor space for a lot of people that, you know, all those people are right here now. Am I right, Wayne?
Yeah.
All the people that we're projecting to go in City Hall there, downtown,
Well,
are actually here right now in this building.
The people that are gonna move down there are here now, yeah, but not everyone here is gonna go down there.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's maybe the first conversation might be who goes down there, you know, to limit the amount of space we actually need for people. I mean, I would think maybe finance and obviously the city manager,
Right.
that group.
Development service.
So that's what we have here. That assessment has been done already. So what you have here is the finance department is here, the HR department is here, the development services department is here. One of the changes that we are making is IT will now be, IT is here. It was here when we moved over here. IT is going to be moved in, and IT is here, and then the city manager is, and that department, assistant city manager, her administrative assistant, and that's this area here. Everybody else is going to stay here. So you got finance going, which is here. You've got HR going. And these were departments that were in the old city hall too. HR is going, development services is going, and the city manager, and then we're gonna take IT along with us too. So this will serve as an emergency EOC, Emergency Operations Center. And that's set in stone. That's what those are the departments that are gonna go over there.
So they didn't take everybody, like leisure services. I mean, there's no floor space designated for leisure services, not even the director. So they didn't take everybody.
I guess
No,
the
leisure
question-
services now is working out of the rec center.
Yeah,
So
I
leisure services,
Always have.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying, the floor space wasn't designed to bring everybody as a one unity. there's still people in outlying areas.
So who is not going back that was in the previous city hall? What departments are not going back there?
The police department was originally in there, and, actually, one department that is in there too, which I forgot to mention, is the city clerk. So the city clerk that's just two officers, it's the city clerk and deputy or assistant city clerk. So everybody's pretty much going over there. We're actually pulling another department over there with us, which is IT.
Right. So it would really just be a public works
But,
in those buildings, is that correct?
well, recreation will be, leisure services will be pulled over here.
Here.
Yeah, yeah, because we'll have the space for them to house them. And then, yeah, the crowding of everyone, like, the engineering department is kind of stuck over there, literally in like closet areas and stuff like that. So they'll be able to go back to, where they were before and have actual regular size working areas. So the tightness, leisure services will, occupy space here too, but, the consolidation, let's put it that way, that we had to do here to get everybody in here, that'll be able to expand out to what it was.
I think what we're actually talking about, if I could just take a second here, I think we're talking about, let's get this down to just mandatory floor space only in an interest to contain costs. But if you have people that are going to be in the city services and they're working in another spot, having that distance between the two locations creates silos. And even though we're in the same city and we're a 5-minute car ride away, the communication gap from not being in the same building to an alternate building, there's a gap there. And even in private business, there's a gap there. So I like the idea of trying to bring the critical services together, because even if there's some nominal floor space elsewhere in the city, that gap creates silos. People don't talk, even though it's electronic and we're right here in the city. It's proven that there's silos. So I kind of like people being together. That's my own personal thought.
I agree, but I don't see that in the plan. I see lots of silos in the plan.
You see lots of silos in the plan.
I do.
Okay.
And I think an objective ought to be, this building was built for, what, a 50-year time frame? The way we operate 10 years from now, even 5 years from now, be dramatically different than the way we operate now. And I'd like to see an attempt to remove those silos and have a plan which is adaptable and to change. I see lots of fixed walls in there that are not adaptable to change, and I see we're just rebuilding the silos that we have.
It's very, very departmentalized. It's compartmentalized. It's every section is like blocked off from everybody else. Oh, I'm going into finance now. Well, you got to open this door and maybe another door to get to finance. So instead of having more of an open floor plan, yeah, you do want to have a conversation and whatnot, but there's maybe private conversation here and there, so it's not completely open. But it's hard to to kind of imagine it by just looking at a floor plan.
We in our business, we had lots of different disciplines. There was the structural engineering, there was mechanical, there was electrical. They all operated with a head, but we just had an open space. There's no reason they can't operate. They don't need to be cordoned off, walled off from each other to operate under that kind of direction. But when it's open and flexible, it allows different groups to grow and in terms of their numbers and people over time.
Grow or shrink, you go either way.
Either way.
Yeah.
So I see this as being very inflexible to adaptability and change.
So
I think that's not a prudent thing to do.
No, let me ask this. Is it because the groups are all there gathered together, or is it because the separation between the groups shown is a doorway and a glass wall? Should doorways and glass walls be removed and just have a hallway and take the door out? Or is it because they're grouped like
It
that?
doesn't even need to be a hallway, it can just be a path.
Path, right, because it looks like I didn't study it that close, but it looks like the departments are separated by like actually a door, right? You have to actually, like Tim said, you gotta go through a door to get there.
So, you know,
Is that,
so let's take, for instance,
yeah, it looks like. they're
finance,
separated
okay?
like
So,
doors.
so finance, yeah, because there are statutes and concerns with security in the finance department. So here's an open common area here. So some of this stuff we attempted to address here, all these are workspaces, open area here. All this would be cubicles that can be rearranged, reconfigured in the future. There are private offices for certain positions that would dictate a private office. And I can't see, I know the chief financial officer has a private office in here. The deputy, and I can't see the titles in here, but, so there's a common area here, and then private offices for the upper staff members. Same thing over here. Here's development services. You have a big common area, and then 2 offices here for directors and deputy directors. There's a shared conference room here for these 2 departments. Now, when you get over into HR is a department that has to be compartmentalized like that. You can't have open discussions, and you also have to have the ability for workers to come in not secrecy, but confidence that
Privacy.
privacy. So,
And disciplinary things.
right, so, and just, you know,
I
the
think that's
public
a
coming in
legitimate
for
comment.
interviews,
Finance, I
you
don't
know,
buy.
stuff like
I mean,
that.
you go into a bank to borrow, $1 million to buy a house, you just do it out in an open area, there's no privacy. I don't understand why.
Yeah, but, so, HR has to have the ability, there'll be HIPAA issues discussed
Yeah, I agree.
with people, you know, so this is HR here. And then there's, you know, a private office for interviewing not only potential workers, but people with issues and stuff. So this area, this department is siloed intentionally. As we get over into the other ones, it just dictated in IT, there are security concerns with the servers. We can't have people, you know, that it just has to be secure areas. So that's why there's a siloed area for IT. And I can get the different departments in here, and they can express their needs as far as, you know, the siloing. So that's how this was developed.
We didn't have it in our office. There were no open office workstations, just like everyone else.
But what did you guys do there? Did you
I mean,
just
the actual
strictly engineer?
computer equipment itself has certain environmental needs that it needs to be partitioned off with the personnel. There's no need for privacy and security, in my opinion.
Well, what I see is that
Yeah, I don't know
there
about
are
that.
silos here. But the silo concept, when I used the word, I think I started that word, what I was thinking of is the silo is a barricade to communication, which is not good. But in this case, I see silos where people that are like-minded, like work, are gathered. So they're gathered in the like-minded work. Planning people are with planning people, accounting people are with accounting people. So I think in that regard, the silo is actually efficient. Where I do see the communication silo problem is that everything is like walled off. It's walled off. Tim said that, I think. It's walled off. So I think the gathering of the like-minded stuff is actually smart. But what I could easily buy into is possibly remove the door barrier. But that silo would be worse if the finance department was moved into an auxiliary building somewhere else, the silo would be 10 times worse. So I kind of like that, but I could see maybe opening up the hallways,
So
taking doors down.
Yeah, because departmentally, you know, we've got big common areas.
Yeah, I think having
Yeah.
people of like-minded work together is efficient. And if the
Right.
city manager wanted to talk to 3 different departments, all you do is walk down a couple of hallways and you got everybody.
Right, so as far as IT, the server room has to be air conditioned to a much lower temperature. The servers have to be kept at a lower temperature. Also, cybersecurity is a big thing now. We have to secure our servers, our server room, and cybersecurity is just big. I mean, there's a thing going on now, is it in the Atlantic, where they got hacked, and the CIA and the FBI were over there, and, you know, they were, was it Russian and Iranians hacked into their system?
My goodness.
And it's not just hacking from the outside, it's people actually infiltrating the facility and going in, and when they get their hands on the equipment, it's pretty easy for them to get in and hack.
Mhm.
It's much more difficult outside to, you know, do it through their own computer outside, but if they can actually physically, basically passing through multiple firewalls to get to the server, they're in. So that I get that needs to be, the server room needs to be very secure.
It's like a vault, like a
Yeah,
vault.
it does, and it also it's got to have climate control, and be large enough to, you know, to maintain, you know, all the equipment, and a potential increase in more equipment down
Yeah,
the road.
definitely.
Although things are getting smaller, but still, you know, they certainly do need room, and that needs to be secure.
So, you
So
know,
out at the Space Center, there are a lot of buildings with just huge floor space, right? And on the periphery of that, you have the offices of managers and assistant managers and whatnot. So they have their own offices where they can go in and have a private conversation or whatever. But in the main thoroughfare, it's everyone. It's different departments, different groups. Hey, they can see each other, just like you said, keep it out of the silo. But you know, for the most part, on the just daily interaction, you don't need, hey, I've got to be private. I want my own little private little area here for the most part. For most folks, I believe that work for the city. Obviously, the management, they need theirs for various other, you know, reasons. But like Mike said, in openness, there's to me, there's just too many walls, too many doors.
I don't think we need to get into the details of it, but I think it ought to be said that our observation is that this is inflexible to adaptability and change.
Yeah.
And it promotes silos where it ought to be promoting teamwork among people in different groups. I'd like to make another comment, a shift in terms of general arrangement of spaces. This is Florida, and sun and solar protection is a really big issue in terms of layout of building. The east and the west are the worst sides of a building in Florida to have windows. On the south side, you can provide sun shading pretty effectively, and on the north side, you don't need any sun shading. I'm wondering why we don't arrange this such that the office space is to the north end of the building, where we can have windows that don't need solar control but have a view and allow light into the building, as opposed to the flip-flop of arrangement that we have. I mean, they've dealt with it here on the left side by leaving an open bay and putting in some vertical blinds. Now, that'll work, but if we shifted those offices to the north side of the building, it would seem like we could have light come into the building and in an open office area.
Yeah, it sun's brutal after 2 or 3 o'clock. coming from the west, so like Mike said.
East and west are
Yeah.
really bad. When I first moved here, I rented a house, and it had the east-west orientation. It was located that way. And on the east side, in the morning, the sun was brutal. You could burn your hand on the glass, and there were shutters there, but the shutters were dark, and it was just the worst example of solar control I've ever seen. So when I ended up buying the house I do, I have deep overhang, 10-foot patios, on the south and west side of the house, and the sun really never gets into the house, and it's made a dramatic difference. So I think the arrangement could utilize solar control much better.
Well, in that vein, taking what Mike just said, I'm on the same subject. This is the west face here,
Right.
and there's not a lot of glass space here that has really high angle sun view, because you've got this
Louver.
yeah, that's covered. So in order to have sun actually come in the city manager's office or any of the executive offices, the sun's gonna have to be very low on the horizon. If the sun's on high, there's no sun on the window because it's covered by the overhang. There would be sun on this conference room, and there would be sun on whatever this stuff is here. And the same thing can be said on the east elevation.
That stair is gonna be a furnace.
Well, the stairwell will, but this is a square roof. This roof comes all the way across all these column lines. So this whole area is covered. So the only way you get sun is you have to have very low angle sun. It's only when the sun comes up. And as soon as it gets up 9, 10 o'clock, the sun's gone because it's covered by the roof. So I hear you, but I think they've got overhangs that cover that.
So one thing I just want to inject, and it's just for your information, this south elevation was initially designed and still can accommodate butting a parking garage up against it. It's a flat plane, and initially there was a pop-up here that would accommodate the elevator shaft for the third floor of a parking garage if it was attached. So since it doesn't seem like there's the emphasis anymore, or the desire to have a parking garage, this has just been left so that in the future you could butt a parking garage up against this plane right here. So attention was paid to the column spacing and things like that, so that we could more easily accommodate a parking garage. So a lot of the layout, Mike, was done with the anticipation of a parking garage, which would have attached through here, and you would have had access to the elevator, and the staircase would have went up another flight of stairs. That's just for your information. I don't want, you guys had to go in there and kind of took steam out of what you were talking about.
No.
You know what I'm saying? That's just for your information. That's.
Yeah, following your line of thought right there, this is a square building. And yeah, I find a square building to be it's kind of a generic building. It's square. It's like got the least amount of fancy features.
Because it's the cheapest thing to build.
It's probably the cheapest thing to build, and it's probably the most efficient floor space wise. I'm guessing that the cost per square foot is probably lower, but it's also probably the most efficient use. You get more usable floor space if you go square.
Yeah,
It's not the most interesting looking building in the world, but you probably get the other benefits.
Right.
My question is, okay, that's where we're at least the starting point. Looking at the broader site, you just mentioned parking garage, we have a cultural green space to the east. I mean, is that the best footprint for the building, realizing there's a cultural green space and maybe a parking garage? Is that the proper shape for the available space we have? Square?
So Tim,
It's 135 feet by 135 feet. Is that
you
kind of like
teach
the best
physics.
usage?
What's your in calculus your max min? Remember max mins?
Yeah,
What's the maximum area?
a circle.
No, it's a square.
For perimeter, it's a
Yeah, for
circle.
perimeter, yeah, it's the you can get the maximum.
The
Yeah.
the maximum area of, if you have a set perimeter, is a circle.
Yeah. Because you don't want to do this.
You don't want to, we don't want to.
Yeah, we don't wanna get- But,
We can do an octagon or something.
That's good, it's good shape.
Square's
So-
good. Let's take
But
this.
I'd like to see the views to the north.
another thing I want to get for you guys, and I wished I had it now, I requested it from Jacobs, is the footprint on our survey to scale, in coordinates and everything, so you can see exactly the size of the footprint on the actual survey. And then the cultural green space is gonna need to see that too, so you can see how much real estate is in front of the building and how much real estate this footprint takes up, you know what I'm saying? Like, this is all just conceptual, when you look at this isometric drawing here, that's not really,
So this isn't to scale?
no, and neither is this.
Oh,
Okay.
So,
No, wait.
so it's being depicted as that, like, palatial football field in front. I don't think it's gonna end up being like that, and I want you guys to see, I want everybody to see that.
Now, wait a minute.
No, I'm just-
now,
I'm
wait a
just
minute now.
envisioning
Now,
the-
wait a minute, now you're talking about this, the other drawings were to scale. The other drawings, the cultural green space is the same length as the building, and it's shown it to scale. I'm not sure that what you're saying is accurate.
Well, I wanted to, it wasn't quite,
It wasn't
superimposed on the actual survey, and that's what I requested, and that's what I'm gonna get for you guys.
Yeah. Yeah, that was the first thing that caught my eye was, wow, that's a big building. That's taken up half, if not more than half of the entire space. And that was a concern to me because of kind of the idea of this to begin with. We wanted more green space for not just for Friday Fest and art show, but we're gonna also be doing farmer's market, which is gonna eventually start off at once a month, then it's gonna be twice a
But you-
month. And that's gonna go in that green space area as well as the pervious paver piece of it as well. But that just seemed, to me, that footprint seems really big. And I'm gonna throw it out there, I don't know if it was the idea of having just 2 floors, one with washout, or 3 floors with a washout and 2 usable spaces to reduce the footprint is feasible financially, from a financial aspect, or from an aesthetic, aesthetically, what does it look like? Another thing, I'm just gonna throw out while I'm on a roll here. One of the issues that I have with our parking garage, it's great, it's functional, but it was never discussed about having an event on top of the parking garage until the parking garage was built. And you go up there and you're looking like, wow, this would be a great place to
What a
watch
great-
a launch.
what a
This would be a
great
great place to have, I don't know, a small little gathering. And so we've done that now, but the functionality of it isn't very good because we don't have power, we don't have lights. And I've been told to put that up there, we can't put it up there because it may interfere with the structural integrity of the parking garage, which I get that. I mean, if you've ever been drilling a hole in one of those walls, it's not a good idea. Just think about being in that parking garage on the bottom floor and feeling the whole thing shake.
Yeah.
Imagine if you have a little pinprick in it and it's all of a sudden it's shaking, and now that little pinprick is a crack that goes through the whole thing. So I get that. So I guess my point is, let's look at all the things that we might want to do with this building.
Right.
If we're gonna do something, if it's gonna have a flat roof, why can't that support a gathering of people?
So let me just,
That kind of thing going forward, just throwing that out there, I mean, we're
I think it's something worth to think about.
so Tim, we were thinking about the farmer's market and everything
Oh,
on the underneath part, and wiring in all that stuff, because it's shaded,
Yeah.
it's sheltered, and it's open.
And that would be rain or shine, that makes it easy, rain
That's a
or
good
shine.
point, I like that. Okay.
Well, I shut you right down, didn't I?
Well, not completely, I mean, I still, you did a little bit.
And I'm not here
you did a little bit-
to counter everything you guys have, I'm just
Good one.
telling you some things that we've discussed,
But
okay?
I'd like to see every cubic inch of this building have a purpose. you
Yeah,
know,
yeah, yeah.
Of something, you know, if we have a roof that is just, well, there it is, and it just gets,
So another part of history here, Mike, and you were involved at, this was a one-story structure at one time, and then.
At grade.
At grade,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
and so
That's how it started.
it's gone, and the design criteria package had a one-story structure, and that created a little angst, with the design, but, now we've elevated it to 2 stories, and, well, let's put it this way, it's all gonna come down to the financial aspect of this and reining it in, depending on where we come out in our budget, so 3 stories might not be feasible, I don't know, I honestly don't know. So I'm just throwing that out there too, but that's how we ended up with.
If, by, decreasing the footprint and going up, is that, how much more expensive is it, or is it more expensive? I don't know.
I think, Mike would know more than any of us together, but I think it's more expensive, but you may get other benefits that outweigh that additional expense. If you can expand the green space or do something else functional with the space you just got back, you may counteract the additional building costs. I think the building cost goes up. I think that's probably irrefutable, but you might get replacement benefits that are even greater. Mike, is there any rule of thumb that if you build a grade, it's X, and if you go up 1 story, it's 1.5X, and if you go up another story, is there any rule of thumb that, going up higher means cranes, slower productivity? Is there any rule of thumb how going up affects price?
Well, the least expensive building is a single floor at grade,
At grade.
which is what we had.
Right.
And there's some specific reasons for it. Doesn't require stairs, doesn't require elevators.
Yeah.
It doesn't require duplications of restrooms, elevators. I did, when we were first looking at this preliminary, I came up with, it's probably 1,000 square feet, so it was probably $1 million added when you go to a second level.
Go to a second level. What would go into another level on top of that? It has to be even more than that, I would think.
But with a
Well,
smaller footprint.
if you're gonna stick with this floor plan at the first level, I think going up with a smaller plan is probably not a big saving. You end up with a lot of roof area that you
Yeah.
didn't have a use for.
Yeah.
No,
You'd have to shrink the whole thing.
Mike, I'm suggesting taking that floor space and duplicating it above it and making the footprint smaller.
And getting additional outside space.
Yeah, but if you're gonna park underneath, there's certain dimensions that you gotta adhere to
Yeah.
that I think are set in the footprint of the building.
I've had a lot of thoughts going through as I'm looking at this whole thing, and I'm just picturing standing on Minutemen Causeway and looking at this and envisioning the distance between A1A and Brevard Avenue, and with the size of this building, I'm just envisioning that this green space is not all that big.
No.
As far as a garage, when I look at this, a garage on the back end of this building might not be a bad idea, because this is just putting a parking lot as part of, like, the showpiece. The showpiece is gonna be on the corner of Minutemen and Orlando. So putting a parking lot right in the front of the lot, aesthetically, is probably not the best thing we could do. If there were a garage attached to the back of the building, that would become sort of part of the cultural green space and would expand it that way. So that's what I'm looking at when I look at the plan. As far as the building itself, and I know it's just preliminary, but I mean, it's really stark, it's bold, it doesn't reflect anything of Cocoa Beach. I've talked with everybody about this. I'm a history person, and I think that it needs to reflect the history and the heritage and be unique to Cocoa Beach. And you know that you're in Cocoa Beach and nowhere else. I mean, this building could be in any town in the state of Florida. And I think we need to take a lot of pride in it. I don't think it just all comes down to cost, because we're gonna be looking at this, people are gonna be looking at it for 50 years,
Yeah.
long after we're all gone. And I think we need to take a lot of pride in it and just make it, give it a personality and make it reflect what our city is.
Well, I would just tag on to you if I may. I find this building to be different than almost all other city hall buildings. The buildings in Florida, for the most part, are traditional buildings with old Roman columns going up in the front and Spanish windows and just traditional kind of building. This is uber contemporary, so to me, this is different. Now, we may not like that, but it definitely is different and sends a statement. We may not like it, but I don't find this to be similar to really, and look at the brand new one in Cape Canaveral. I mean, that's a polar opposite of what this is.
Yeah, I don't think we need to build
Yeah,
that.
that looks like some
I'm not suggesting we build it.
Tuscany type building.
I'm
over
just
there.
saying that this one is very unique, I find. The ones I've seen around Florida don't look like this.
I think it's uniquely bad in itself, but
Oh, that could be.
that's my opinion.
So what is it, like mid-century modern, is that what they're?
Well, I don't know, it's kind of no, it's modern.
I call it, yeah, it's contemporary to me. It's
Basically.
square and boxy and white, and it's got a glass, and it's, you know, I mean, buildings are being built like this. This is not like a building's never been built. They're being built like that. They're not permeated all over Florida, but there are buildings being built like this.
Yeah, there's, right on Atlantic there, what is it, between South First and South Second on Atlantic, all those new homes.
Yeah, the
there.
new residentials kind of look like this,
Yeah,
exactly. It's a
yeah.
new look. It's not a coastal look. This
Like
is a new-
minimalistic kind of.
Yeah, it's a different look than the traditional coastal look.
Yeah, you either love it or you hate it, I think, most people. But I'm just listening, go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, no, Rick made a point that it's, well, he said that it was the same. I thought it was a little bit different because of the futuristic contemporary, but
Okay, well, it could be a corporate headquarters
It
for
could be-
somebody.
it could be a corporate
headquarters, but it doesn't show any unique personality of Cocoa Beach.
So I'd say, think about what that means and tell them, what do you think would make it look like Cocoa Beach?
Okay.
I'm just listening to what you're saying, and that would be, like, I don't know what surfboards, rocket ships, I mean,
Well, we need to embrace our space heritage, because it's our past, it's our present, it's our future.
yeah.
I mean, this in the 1960s and 1970s through the 1980s was the epicenter of space exploration, and we don't do anything to acknowledge it anywhere in the city.
Yeah.
We had this discussion when the fire station was under design, and we looked at several alternatives to it, and there was a Key West style, and there was a modern style, and we went with that because we're not Key West, we're not like an old fishing village, we're here
It's more.
because the Space Center, it ought to be a modern building. Now, this is pretty generic right now, but
Yeah.
I think it ought to reflect the technology that made us what we are.
Yeah.
Right, with a very big shout out to the past for lack of a better word, but an acknowledgement of what got us here.
Yeah. But, and that's what we ended up with at the fire station, at least that was the attempt, to not try to do a Key West style building, historic
Right.
building.
Right.
Do one that reflects
Yeah.
our heritage.
It
which
looks
is
like no other
technology.
building.
Yeah, we're in the epicenter of future space exploration and technology, so I would agree with what you're saying. Maybe
Yeah.
the building should have, when you look at it, it reflects that environment that we live in.
Right.
Now, you can ornament the building with surfing history and you can ornament the building with other stuff, but the building in general would be more of a technology building.
But my view of the design right now is that this is pretty generic, right? We haven't really developed the details of design yet, because we're still discussing what ought to be included, how ought to be arranged, and other things, and I think that comes later on.
right. So,
I think the footprint's very is key. I mean, I think the footprint
Yeah, the footprint's
is
key.
like number one.
Can I say something about the footprint? When I looked at this, I kind of came to the same conclusion that Tim is saying, is that the green space, to me, I had this huge multi-acre green space, and when
yeah.
you look at the building, this building is 135 feet. There's 10 column lines, 9 spaces at 15. It's 135 feet. And the green space, if the drawing is to scale, this length from here to here is approximately 135 feet. So the building cuts the block kind of down the middle of the block. But in my mind, I saw the green space being way bigger than that. And I do feel it's a little bit smaller. So taking that thought, okay, that's a tough word, because you don't know which path you're going to go down. If there's not going to be a parking garage in this location here, would it make sense to move some square footage of the building and make an L out of it and push the building back a little bit and increase this green space? Make this bigger, push this back, and if you need floor space, make an L. And it would give the building a little bit of shape. It moves additional space to the green space. Just a question.
Yeah, right now, I mean, we got a taste last night from the commission of what direction they want to go with that parking garage. And it's not going, from what I saw. So, does that mean it's not going to go in 2 years, or, you know, the commission changes every 2 years, so I don't know if that's a thing. But the location of that building is critical for a lot of things. You know, if we're gonna put a parking garage in there, yeah, that's where it needs to go, right? I mean, that's it. If we think we might want to put a parking garage in there in the future, that's where it goes. But that's what if, right? I mean, so we're making a decision on what ifs, which is, I guess, what we're doing here.
You keep going.
But I like what you're saying, John, and shifting, even just shifting the building over, maybe adding a little bit more footprint on the backside to open up the front and have a diagonal. Have the front of it, instead of a square, if it moved back and you had it cut off at a diagonal, and then a band shell coming out, it would just cover more space. As far as if we had groups out there, you know, various events, you know, this band shell isn't just for bands. You know, we can have events, have speakers, and have people talking, and things, you know, that kind of thing going on out there.
Yeah.
So it's.
You go, the open parking lot on A1A is almost as big as the green space, and it's just a parking lot. I mean, it looks all pretty in the design with the landscaping and everything else, but it's a parking lot.
Yeah.
You know, and it's right there in A1A, right across from a garage and a police station. So if there was any way to, again, when I first thought of a garage on that footprint, and I agree, Tim, as far as the commission, when I first thought of a garage on that footprint, I thought, no way.
Yeah.
But it makes sense looking at that, if the garage would put off the back of the building there and make that more open space.
Talking about over
that
here.
parking lot, it looks horrible.
Yeah, playing on what Rick just said, I like where you're going with this. I mean, the green space is gonna look nice from this street and from A1A. And I think what Rick is suggesting is maybe take some of this parking lot and make the green space go out into this area, so you increase the green space area, and any parking you displace, you could put back here. So you're displacing the parking here. If we ever came back and build a parking garage, you're gonna displace this parking, but you're putting a parking garage in.
Right.
So you're moving proposed parking out to expand the green space. I think that's a good idea.
Yeah.
And if you put the parking in the back, you get it.
Yeah.
If we ever come in with a garage, you're gonna take it out, but you're gonna put a parking garage in there, so it doesn't matter.
Right, I mean, is that whole space over there, like behind the fire station, could that even be without a garage? Could that parking lot in the front be accommodated in that area there, because it looks like there's a lot of.
But this is a parking area
grassy-
already.
But there's a lot of grassy
Yeah,
berms and
It
whatever you wanna
was,
call
it was
in there.
built when this was built, so yeah, this is all parking here now.
Right,
So I think what we tried to do here, or what they tried to do, is they tried to kill two birds with one stone, where this is permeable pavers and the type where you have grass growing out of them. And so it kind of appears to be more of a green space area, and that food trucks and whatnot, we would be able to use this.
yeah, it's more than a parking spot, it's like
Yeah.
an event, it's an event center.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
then,
Oh, that's-
incorporate parking into it too,
Okay,
that
it's an
was the
event center.
intent there.
That makes some sense.
Now, to design something just for food trucks, are food trucks gonna be a thing in 10 years? Nobody has a crystal ball, but anyway, it would be a multi-use type thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tim, do you see like Main Street support going into that thing where they're talking about? Do you see use for Main Street there?
For food trucks and all,
Food trucks or-
in this area, Tim.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe that space is needed if Main Street. if you-
So-
Right now, we
This
use
is-
the parking lot, the existing parking lot is where we put all the food trucks.
Right,
Right.
so we were trying to accommodate that over here.
Yeah,
Okay.
right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I totally get that. My thought on this is if we're not putting in a parking garage, let's shift this building to the south as far as we can.
To the south or to the
Over
west?
this way?
South.
To the south.
I think there's some
What do you take?
prominence in that location that's valuable. Think about the
In other
town
words,
square that has the city hall in it,
You're putting the city hall behind the
yeah,
fire
there's
station, is
there's a
what you're
certain
saying.
prominence to this that I think's of value.
Tim, what?
So-
Go ahead, go ahead.
Well, but, we got an hour for this, and I got something else at 12:30, but we'll talk about, as soon as you guys wrap up your next meeting, and what you want at the next meeting, and then, I'll get together what you want at the next meeting too, so.
What's our timeframe here? When do we need to be finished? We need to kind of have some sort of schedule.
I'd say 3 or 4 meetings,
Okay,
and
and meet how often? Once a week?
that's up to you guys, whatever you want to do, if you want to meet next week, you want me to get something together, I can get, do you want Jacobs to come in?
I think it might be too soon for them, because I don't even think he's ready for, too soon to have them here?
Depends on, are they gonna respond to what comments we've made today?
I can get them to them, yeah.
Yeah, I think they ought to hear what we're having to say.
I mean, I'm fine with a weekly meeting to kind of keep continuity going as well. I mean, if we
It's gotta be
If we
early
leave
on.
here and then we come back in 2 weeks or a month or anything, I mean, we have some continuity, we've got some energy going.
But it has to be before Wednesday next
no.
week, because I'm going out of town.
When are you coming back, Mike? I don't want to cut you off.
Now,
First of April.
is this an informal setting where we are not allowed to talk among ourselves because of sunshine? Or is it informal enough that if John and I shoot some ideas back and forth, there's a problem?
I think it's sunshine. We're
Yeah.
treating it as sunshine. Just to be safe,
I know.
and rather safe than sorry, so it is sunshine, yeah.
Sunshine, but we can talk to anybody else.
Yeah, you can talk to anybody else,
And
yeah.
not just among ourselves?
Yep.
I mean, you can talk to anyone else in
I'll say some other things, as long as we're getting everything out of our chest here today, but I've not been a big fan of attaching the performing space to the front of the building. That's bothered me from the beginning. That building could look out on and address the green space much better if it didn't have that obstacle in the way, and I wonder if that should be located to another area on the site. I'd rather see that. it looks in the way to me.
The green space?
No,
The band shell.
the band shell, the performance space, yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good point, Mike. I mean, if you had the band shell, well, the problem with it facing west is the noise going to the community, but then you got the building there to stop it, which also, you know, the building itself could be the, you know, like for the audience. I mean, we could have different, you know, people could actually be on the balconies or up top and built it in such a way that you could have people up there watching a concert or watching, you know, an event that's going on.
You know, I happened to drive by Rockledge the other day, their city hall. They developed that space next to it,
Mhm.
and it has a performance area, but it's separated from the building, which has been there for a long
Right.
time, and that appealed to me more.
Yeah.
You know, and ideally, City Hall should be on the city corner, should be on that corner. And,
Back where
if
it
you-
was.
What's that?
Back where it was.
Yeah, exactly, back where it was. And that, by putting it next to the fire station like that, that actually opens up more possibilities for the space in behind it. The cultural space should maybe behind it, and I also agree, it just seems kind of silly to have a band performance stage at the front entrance of your city hall. It's a little, it'd be unusual.
Where are we in the plans for the parking? I've got to ask that.
Where are they, what was that, Mike?
On the parking,
The garage?
parking deck, yeah.
There aren't any. We've been
A lot of
approving.
I
opposition.
think
So-
it's hinged on the end, yeah, nobody knows where that's going. I think
Well,
it's
it just
hinged-
seems to be,
it's
we're
hinged
making a
on-
lot of our decision based on that limitation, that we'd have to have a garage there. Maybe we ought to answer that question first.
Makes a big difference.
Yeah, it does.
It makes a big difference, because you already have situated it and sized it and shaped it because you were thinking in the
Of a
future we
garage.
could attach it and you've
Yeah.
got a breezeway going through the elevator, so you've
So you've
already.
got no windows.
Right.
And
Yeah.
the thing is, I understand we have a separate task force to look into the green space, but I can't remove that from my thoughts about what the city hall ought to be.
Yeah, right.
That's a good point. I mean, I don't think that's a good idea to have another group doing green space. Well, and
Why is it
one
not
another group
one
doing the city hall, because they're connected in so many ways, like we've all just discussed, you know, different features.
I think the
I
site
don't know.
plan should be decided in this room, the site plan. And once the site plan is decided, it sets some parameters. It sets the location of the building,
Yeah.
and it sets the location and size of the green space. And then that information could be given to the Cultural Green Space Committee.
Do
But I
you
think
know the
site
plans of
plan-
that committee? Or
It's
when they're
only two
scheduled?
members, right? It's
But when it's gonna be scheduled?
Next
or-
Wednesday. Well, a week from Wednesday.
I know they're gonna meet, Tim, I'm not sure, I'd have to, you know,
Yeah.
it's all open too, so it'll be advertised, yeah.
The green space doesn't set the building sets the green space. So I think the site plan has to be approved in this room, or I say approved, it has to be recommended.
Yeah.
And then they work off the recommendation. Right now, they're working off what they see, but if we change it, that changes what they're doing. I think the site plan makes more sense to be in this room, not that room.
Right, so at this point, I would assume that the City Hall Park Committee would be we'd be interested in feedback on things like, do you want synthetic fake grass, AstroTurf in areas? They want to move the Kelly Slater statue, you know, where do you want to put that? But they have to see how much real estate they have to work with. So based on this footprint here, you know, I'm going to get that in a drawing that's to scale and in coordinates, and they can make much more informed decisions on stuff like that. And then the parking garage, Dr. Smallwood had that one piece of art made. You know, do we have any interest in someone, you know, donating pieces of art? You know, that kind of thing, very preliminary stuff like that with that committee at this point in time, so.
Or getting some historic piece of equipment from the Space Center.
Yes.
Right, that's-
Or that Mercury capsule that's
Yeah.
right down the street and sitting at the height of the.
I've had discussion about that, and that's not gonna be,
Not gonna happen?
no.
Yeah, but there is.
That's good that it's there.
There
That's
is
cool.
movement with, apparently there was like a space junkyard or something that I've
Yeah.
heard about, yeah. So that's in motion too.
Good, good.
I really do think looking more at it, I think that building belongs on the corner, on the street corner.
Mm.
You know, just coming down A1A, there's your city hall right there.
Yeah, I don't know.
Flipped
see-
around with the band stage facing the other way.
Right. One of my first thoughts, because I read a lot of events, and we haven't had an event since the fence is down and the city hall's down. And this one tonight isn't going to be where people are gonna be on that grass, because it's not really walkable. You know, some people aren't gonna be there hanging out. Because my point is, when we do get that cleaned up and we're gonna have people there, it changes the kind of the whole dynamic of people, oh, I can just see them walking across the street from there, straight to the parking garage, rather than going to the corner and crossing at the crosswalk. I mean, it happens now, from the fire station and coming through that way, it does. So is that a safety issue? Is that something, that's certainly something we need to think about. The cars fly through there. If they got a green light and they're not slowing down, it's kind of craziness.
So they're adding a pedestrian crosswalk at South First, FDOT is.
Oh,
People aren't gonna walk down that far either.
No, they're not.
Yeah, they're gonna do a mid-block
But-
crossing.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no mid-block plan. That's FDOT right away. That would be something that you'd have to.
So what are you getting at?
I'm just looking
You would move the
at-
building,
so-
you would move it to Orlando? No?
you know, since we've been conceptualizing this whole thing, I'm thinking, oh yeah, it'd be great if it was back there. And then as I'm looking at it, first thing that comes into my mind is the traffic coming through there at 45 miles an hour. Yeah, the speed limit is 35, but folks are going 40 and
Yeah.
45 miles
Yeah,
an
they
hour
do.
through there. We have issues during the art show, during Friday Fest, but we have it's kind of limited to Minutemen, where people are walking through. I don't know if there's a way to maintain that. I guess you could do it with the shrubbery they have there, and that, from that drawing, that if you have shrubbery or some sort of decorative
Like a barrier.
gate or fencing kind of thing around it, so that people aren't just walking straight out into the street. So so this is our first meeting. A lot of things I've been throwing out there, just things in my head, not my idea of, hey, this is how I want it to be, but just get the, ideas and juices flowing and seeing what way we want to go. Try to look at every possible thing that's out there, it's in our head. Next meeting will probably be a lot better, because we'll have better ideas of what we're doing here, right?
Yeah, we've got like all the options are out on the table, but
Well,
we'll have
not
to.
some of them, not all of them, I'm sure there's a lot more.
But more than we had an hour ago,
Right.
and then we have to start picking, well, which option
Right.
do we like the best, and start drilling down. I think that the highest level is the site plan. If the site plan is not resolved, I think all this other stuff, you have to resolve the site plan.
Correct, and are you gonna think about a garage, or you're not gonna think about a garage? Personally, aesthetically, I would not want to see one there, but I also don't wanna lose any of the parking spaces that we already have, because parking spaces are precious. So, but yeah, I mean, it's hard to leave something open for a possible future construction of a garage when you're building everything around something that may or may not happen. I think the decision as to whether we want to put a garage on there affects everything else.
If I could suggest, maybe next time, goals for next meeting, resolve the site plan, priority 1. Priority 2, do we consider the parking garage, yes or no? Is that gonna be a factor or not? In or out? Because that would change what you do, so we gotta make a decision on that. And, number 3, shape of the building. That's a square, are we sticking with a square, are we doing something different? You know, and then it just logically drills down to more and more detail, but site plan,
Garage.
parking garage, do we consider it, yes or no? And then shape of the building. And I think everything else then starts to lay in place, but those 3 things I think are the highest priority, starting with the site plan.
This lot doesn't go all the way to First Street. There's like an alleyway. Is that the boundary of the site? There's sort of an alleyway behind it.
No, we abandoned the alleyway.
Okay, so I guess,
The city
I
owns-
wanna go down and walk the site. I wanna go down and actually look at it with nothing on it. And I'm just wondering how far back it goes.
Well, that's,
With the
there's
straight
a,
We own all of them.
The fire
It's a
station, I
bunch
guess, would be the-
of, go on the property appraiser's website
Okay.
and you'll see all the, there's about 4 or 5 parcels, but they all abut each other and the city owns all this property in
Okay.
here, all this. Back, you know, all the way back here to the street, all around it, so. It's almost a rectangular plot if you were to join it, if you did a unity, a title on all of them, so. All right, so that's good. Let's, so what about a next meeting? When do you wanna, so Mike, when are you gonna be back?
Oh, the 1st, I think.
April 1st?
Right.
So that wouldn't be next week, would it?
I'll be here through Wednesday next week.
I can meet between
And I'm
them.
going away on Thursday.
I'll make it
be
work,
back to the
whatever.
1st.
That might be not enough time for me to get, together with Jacobs and get some things ironed out and presented to them.
I'm not sure we're even ready. I'm not convinced we actually need it yet. We're
No, I
still,
don't think so.
we're flying at 50,000 feet. They can't answer that. This is a personal decision for us. I don't.
Yeah,
think-
that's up to you guys. I mean, I'll get in
Maybe,
here whenever.
I see them coming in after next meeting. I see them in the subsequent meeting. The next meeting I see just amongst us.
So you guys wanna meet again, next Wednesday?
This room is booked next Wednesday from 10 to 12.
No, the next meetings are gonna be, at the country
Okay.
I
club.
can do that, but Mike, you're.
I mean, I'm not, you guys tell me when you wanna
He
meet.
has to be able to get his job done.
So
But
when-
I can do it.
No, Wednesday's fine.
You know?
Yeah, I'm leaving Thursday,
Wednesday, the 22nd.
2nd, yeah.
Okay.
Because then I'll be gone for like, what's that? 10 days.
Might be good, yeah, I don't wanna go 2.5 weeks.
I'll be back on the Sunday the 2nd.
Okay, so you want me to set something up for next Wednesday? Let me double check, because there's been pushback that the meeting should be a little bit later in the afternoon, like 4 o'clock, is that, so the public could come and,
That's fine.
That would actually work really well for me. I do have a volunteer job I do on Wednesdays. I would skip it that day if need be to come to this meeting. At 4 o'clock would work great.
Yeah, that's probably a good idea, but we need some sort of plan for that as far as agenda and whatnot for public comment.
Yeah, I have
and
to put an
discussion.
agenda.
That could go from 4 to 10, you know,
no, we'll keep it to an hour.
well,
Yeah, but I mean, even this one, we're over half an
you're
hour.
right.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying, if we had 10 more people,
We
just
came-
10 more people.
We came into this.
So you wanna make it an hour and a half? I can do that, so we'll go from 4 to 5:30,
4 to 5:30,
I'm all right with that.
which means 6, but yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
yeah.
I actually think.
I mean, I'm just, you know,
I think this meeting was actually productive because we came in
yeah,
and we didn't really know precisely what we were gonna do, and a lot of good stuff has come up. But at the next meeting, we could have very specific goals and just all stay focused on hammering them out, I think we'll get to where we need to get to. So we had to have this meeting before you can really drill down.
so this is live right now?
No.
Okay, so this is going on, out on our website. They'll be able to link to it and watch everything we've said,
Eventually, I
Today.
don't know exactly.
which is, I think, good.
Yeah, we're
If they
gonna,
watch it all.
I think it's true,
If they
yeah.
watch it all, so, because there's a lot of good information, and it might, get other people thinking of, and the more people we have kind of thinking,
Yeah.
different ideas and reasons why to do this or why not to do it,
Mhm.
I think is good. Because I don't want to
Yeah, real information is always
get further
better
down
than
the
social
line and
media
say, oh, this,
information.
we're going, oh, what did you think about this?
Yeah, well, a good idea could come from anywhere.
Right.
Right, you don't know where it's gonna
Right.
come
Yeah.
from.
All right,
all
so.
right, let me see what I can get
Wednesday
together from Jacobs, just to present to you what I've been talking about, as far as the existing site plan. See, they're not gonna go any further on the site plan, because if it's in flux, they're gonna waste their time, and time is eventually gonna cost us.
Right.
So, all right, so cool. Next Wednesday, I'll set it up for 4 to 5:30 at the Country Club, and an agenda will be posted. And,
I want to say one thing before I go, because I just entered my head. Instead of keeping this square, if it was moved back to here and cut off at an angle, you get green space up to here, and you have an angle cut off, so it'd be a different shape, but you'd get a lot more green
So-
space if it could move up that way.
more of a trapezoidal type.
Or, not a triangle, but it would have,
Truncated.
let's see, 5-sided, but not all the sides would be the same. These two sides would be the same length, if this is an actual square, which I believe it is, and cut up a piece of it, kind of give it a different look, other than just a thought.
Yeah, square.
Just a thought that, hey, yeah, we can do that. We can
You
make
could
it
do that on the street corner as well. That
Okay.
were on the front street corner, you could angle that.
Yes.
Okay, another thing is Pam will compile the minutes from this meeting, and we'll post the minutes also. We'll have a video so everybody can, have access to all this, and that's
And
very.
minutes, where do you want the minutes posted?
We'll post them on the webpage under this project.
Okay, all right, we'll do.
Actually, we can discuss that. They'll be available to the public. I'm not sure the best place to
Doesn't
put
this
it.
go on meetings and agendas, the same as all the other?
Maybe.
Well, the video,
It's just a link.
we'll get it out there. I'm not sure.
We'll figure it out.
All right, good deal.